let's just say you were in the seventh year at a law firm or like seventh year at an investment banker. If that firm fired you, you would be screwed. You wouldn't have any skills outside of just what you learned at school. Where now, like as a business owner, even if you fail, like if my business blew up today and I had to start from literally scratch, I would have no worries. I would have no anxiety whatsoever because I have the actual business skills to do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you have a group of a bunch of people doing the same thing as you, it's a lot easier to put the work in. And especially when you see those people having success, as you can watch
Yeah.
this person was in this job, they tripled their salary and now do this full time in under 5 months using the exact system that I just got. And then you're excited about taking action.
Brooke, let's kick off, man. Really looking forward to this. As always, unbelievable background, man, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I want to start really in the law side of things, right? Because
Yeah.
for someone who goes through, a couple of years of study of law and then pivots into ecom, it's a big change. I would have thought you would have gone to something different. How come you made that actual I guess inflection point, and what was it for you?
So growing up, I always played sports. So I played hockey, pretty high level hockey, and had my career end due to concussions. And after that, during that period where my career ended, I was kind of getting into the online business space, starting listening to podcasts. Like I was listening to like Andy Frisella's MFCO project like very early on. So that kind of got me interested in entrepreneurship. I wanted to start a business, but I was only like 17, 18 years old at this time. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know where to start. So it just made sense. I'll just go to school for business. So at the time, went to school for business, applied to a really high-end business school. And I had terrible marks my first year. So like 60, 65 average, terrible. Started doing better my second, third year, started getting like 90s. But the admission to this business school was based on your cumulative average over your whole undergrad. So because the first year was so bad, my overall average was only like 82 or something like that. So I got denied twice to this business school. And I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I thought I'll go to this business school. I'll start an entrepreneurship, or I'll take like entrepreneurship and start a business. They have this class where you could start a business in the class and get like feedback from your profs because they're really high in school. But anyway, I got denied there. So I thought like, holy shit, like what am I going to do? So the next logical thing to me seemed I'll do corporate law, work with businesses and get the experience that way. So applied to law school, which is actually based on your previous 2 years of marks, where I had super good. So I got into law
Mm-hmm.
school. But I think the whole time I kind of knew I was being dishonest with myself a bit. Like I always had this gut feeling like you need to just start a business. What are you doing? And it was more just something that sounded good to tell my family, tell my friends, like, oh, I'm in law school. Like it sounds good on face. So did that, did really well in law school, got a job at one of the top corporate law firms in Canada in Toronto. It's called Davies. Firm's great. Like if I was going to work at a law firm, that would still be to this day where I would want to work. Like really, really good firm, super high end clients, very high end everything. But I just didn't like I've never done well working for someone else. Like it's very hard for me to feel motivated just trading my time for money. No matter how much
Yeah.
money I'm being paid, it's just very hard to stay motivated. So
Yeah.
I ended up working at that. So how it works in law school is you're there for 3 years. After or during your second year, you do the recruitment. That's when I got the job. Then you work at the
Mm-hmm.
firm in between years 2 and 3. And then you go back for year 3, finish your last year, and then you go work at the firm full time. So I got the job in year 2, worked there in the summer after. And I remember seeing, like, we had something like, if you can imagine, a Slack, where you can see all the people who work at this firm. And every single one of these people was online till like 11 p.m. every night, every single night. And they're making good money, like 300, 400K Canadian. So they're doing well, but they literally have no life whatsoever. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, like, I've spent like all this money to go to law school. I've tried so hard to get the best job at this firm. And like all these people, they seem miserable. Like just speaking to them, they don't seem happy. They're working till 11 p.m. every night. They can't even enjoy the money they're making. So I thought like, okay, like I have to try and at this time I had like over 150,000 in debt to go to law school. So I was going into my
Do you
final year.
regret it?
I don't want to say I regret it. Like
Mm.
it's hard to say I regret it because I think it would be wrong for me to say I didn't take a lot of valuable skills from law school. So it
Yeah.
really taught me how to like frame arguments, how to write, how to reason.
Mm.
Like any situation now where the outcome seems obvious, or like I'm very good at considering both sides. Because in law school, they would be like, okay, this guy killed so and so. You're his lawyer. You have to argue why he's in it, why he should not go to jail. So you very teaches you to see both sides of every situation very well, which I think has served me well in business. Um, just kind of step back and look at things objectively. So it's helped me
Mhm.
that way. It's really helped me write a lot. So I've definitely taken valuable skills from there. But at the same time, if I just started business when I knew I should have when I was like 17, 18, I think I would be light years ahead. But that just wasn't the path I took for whatever reason. But I
Mhm.
don't want to say I regret it and I didn't take any value from it at all. But anyway, I
Yeah.
was like 150K in debt and I just finished my second summer. So I was going to go back for the third year law school to finish out and then start the job. And I asked the firm, like, hey, can I work during the year just to start paying back some of my debt? Like, in your third year, your marks don't matter because you already have the job. So it's not like you have to study super hard. Like, you just have to pass and you just go to where the firm where you got the job at. So I said, hey, guys, can I work during this year? And they said, like, no, if we let you work, we're going to have to let all of our summer students work. So I said, like, okay. Um, I guess I'll start a business. So I started doing the low ticket AliExpress drop shipping where you sell junk from China. I failed miserably at that. And then I was just doing some research and I stumbled across high ticket where you sell like higher priced luxury items. And that took off for me pretty quickly. So school starts in September. I think I started my high ticket store or my low ticket stores I was failing with in August because the law firm ended early August. So I did August, failed with that. September started high ticket. October I did like 30K in sales. November 150, December over 200. So by the time third year law exams came, I was already making more from my store than I was going to make when I graduated as a lawyer. So I said to my parents, like, hey, I want to drop out and do this full time. They said, like, no, you're crazy. They convinced me to go back for the second semester. I went back, store kept growing. And then eventually, um, I just said like, screw it, dropped out completely and just went all in on the store. And that would have been a year ago, January. So January 2022 is when I started. I don't think I officially dropped out till February, but that's when I kind
Mm.
of made the decision.
If you think about how much money you would have made out of law, it wouldn't have even been probably like that high. Now, I know Canada and America is slightly different, but like roughly speaking, it would have been very slow. And I think this is why like I really resonate with your story because my background's in like business and software engineering, but I went to work at big consulting firms, like very big consulting firms, and it was oh man, it was dog shit money. It was like 30,
Yeah.
40K a year. But then I pivoted from there into financial technology, fintech, product, like the sexy products work, building apps, like proper building apps. And I kind of even felt that ceiling. So a guy in my podcast you might recognize before, his name is Yusuf Smith, had a great test on this. He said, if you look at your manager and as your manager's manager and you see how miserable they are, that's by extension your path.
Yeah.
Because it'll show you where you'll be in 5 years, 10 years, and you could even see where you're going to be in 15 years.
Yeah.
And even though the money's going really well, which is exactly what's happening there, it's kind of like you're not in control. And when I left that world, I really, really felt that because when I left, I was so conditioned from people telling me that, look, you're building this experience. But when I left, man, to build my own agency, I didn't. I literally had nothing. And even though I did on paper, which I would put together on paper as a CV, I never really owned it. And I think that's where it becomes very telling because like you experience it, I've experienced it. So it's not like we're just shitting on like a 9 to 5. I just feel like I literally had no ownership. And
Yeah.
now as it has gone on, I'm
Like,
an asset and everything.
do you look back and almost feel like it almost feels to me like when I look back at myself during those years, it almost feels like I was brainwashed. Like, how could I be so stupid? Like, how could I have bought into that? How could I have been
Mhm.
so fearful of taking any risk? Like, why was I so worried about going to university and getting the job? Like, why didn't I just take a shot? Like, I was 18 years old. Like, what was the worst thing that would have happened? I would have just
It's
slept, just been at my parents' house. Like, that was the worst case.
it's like loss aversion. So if you have any background in like finance or like trading, like loss aversion is the instance of like we put $100 in, and if the money goes up, we're happy, or when we don't feel the money going up, we only feel the money that we lose. So when you put the time into university, now I know American university bills are crazy. Mine weren't, but my family, like my dad is an exterminator, my mom was a nurse. They put me through like a private school that was quite cheap now in the context of things, and then I went to university. They put me through university and then I got into these roles. So I kind of felt like that I was building up all of this, like, I don't know, nonsense to some
Yeah.
degree. So then when you're thinking of pivoting, the idea was like when I was at 80,000 in a salary, I was like, well, I can get to 120K in 3 years versus starting over. And what happened was actually, it was actually very funny. Like, you might probably know Justin Welsh from just the Twitter,
Yeah.
LinkedIn scene. I followed his rule book, and it was like, get to 60% of your salary. If you can get to 60% of your salary on the side, then when you go 100% straight focus, you can bam past it. So that's kind of what I was working towards. And then even at that breaking point when I was leaving, I was like, fuck, maybe it's not going to work out. But one other point, I know I'm always referencing people, but James Smith says that if you're good at something you hate, you'll be great at something you love. And
Very true.
I just had that in my brain. That was it. It was the only thing that was going on in my brain. And I was like, if I just condition myself into this is the new way of thinking. And yeah, I'm not there yet, but I really resonate with your story because I know how difficult it is when you carry that baggage, even at a young age.
It's almost like you said, it feels like you pay all this money to go to school to get all these skills. But at the end of the day, like let's just say you were in the seventh year at a law firm or like seventh year at an investment banker. If that firm fired you, you would be screwed. You wouldn't have any skills outside of just what you learned at school. Where now, like as a business owner, even if you fail, like if my business blew up today and I had to start from literally scratch, I would have no worries. I would have no anxiety whatsoever because I have the actual business skills to do it on my
Mm-hmm.
own. And I don't think any employee, no matter how much they're making, has that per se. Like if you're working for someone your whole life, you don't know what it's like to build something yourself. It's completely different. You can read about it in theory, but it's a completely different skill set, and it can like take a completely different mentality, and it makes you become a completely different person when you're responsible for your own outcome. You're not trading your time for money. It doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter how much time you put in. All that matters is how good you are at what you do and how you position yourself. It's all leverage.
Mm-hmm. It's all about execution and outcome. Basically, you can work as little as what you do, which we'll get into, of course, or as aggressively as some people do in the agency world. But it's about that, and I really see that because when you're working for a company, whatever, you're a task manager. You do tasks.
Yes.
Whereas the second I walked away, I was like, I was incredible under pressure, and I really sympathize with people who do it, and that's why I love your story because I felt just so overburdened in the middle in the
Yeah,
beginning.
me
But
too.
I knew that to the point that, like, you had a background in hockey, I have a background in rugby and athletics, and I was like, if I can do all that stuff, we can do all that stuff and then move into the next sphere, I can just put my mind at this. And that's what I wanted to ask you on this too, because I heard you mention before that you were putting your energy into the wrong things.
Yeah.
So how have you changed that mentally as now you've been doing the right things, let's say? How much of that of an inflection has that been for you?
Yeah, I think the best way to determine whether you're putting energy into the right thing is just say like if I keep working at this every day for the next 5 years, am I going to have what I want? And if the answer is no, then I would say you're probably working on the wrong thing. So for us, like if you were in finance and I was in law, if I just kept like I would get these cases and the lawyer in charge of the file would be like, you have to do this 10-hour task in 3 hours. And I would like rush, 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 get everything done. And then I'd send it to them. They wouldn't even read it for like a month. So I'd like all this hard work and then compound that over 5 years. Maybe I'm getting a higher salary. Maybe the firm likes me more, but I'm not building anything. I'm just trading my time for more amount of money, essentially. And if I just keep doing that, like that's not going to lead to any sort of freedom, really. Like if I stop working, I stop making money. Where if you put all that energy into a business you can build SOPs and operating procedures and hire people and create new offers and step out of the business where you're actually overseeing everything. You're actually putting in your time and effort into a thing that exists outside of you. So if I just didn't turn on my laptop for a week, for all intents and purposes, like my store would still be fine.
Mhm.
So you're putting your energy into building an asset versus putting your energy into trading your time for more money. It's a completely different feeling.
Mhm. There's a very interesting study on that whereby people trade their time for money, and it's like a curve. So more time, more money, and there's a point in the curve where people want to give back some money so that they
Is
can
it?
have more time. And that's as you go from analyst to associate to manager to partner to executive. So when you're at that point and there's no return, then you're an executive. You could be bought into a company. Some consulting firms I worked for, you have to pay. You pay them
Yeah,
300K. You buy in, and at that point, then you've actually committed 100 hours a week, and you would want to hand it back. And that's That's the whole point of the leverage. When you have your own leverage, of course, different business models, but at some point you're doing that. I want to ask about some kind of resistance you had. So I know you mentioned that your parents wanted you to stay in it and to stick through it and get the fucking piece of paper.
Yeah.
For you, like, what type of influences do you think were around you? Like, were you kind of very committed to yourself, or your fiance? Was she kind of supportive at the time?
So I didn't grow up in a very well off family. We were very middle class. Like I never went on vacation with my family or anything. I never had any entrepreneurs in my family at all. And the one advantage I had was leaving home early for hockey, for athletics. So I left home at age 15 and moved out pretty much on my own. So I would live on my own in the summer for hockey training. I would live with a billet family, which is essentially a family that takes care of you. So if I go play hockey in a city, I played for Niagara Ice Dogs. Niagara Falls is the city, Niagara Ice Dogs. So I would live with a family there who like feed me. I could sleep there, but I would have to get to practice on my own. I would have to go to the road trips on my own. In the summer, I lived on my own. So I was very independent at a very young age. So I think even my siblings, they got trapped in the house without that. And I think that me being out really influenced my trajectory, and I could see outside of just the
Mm-hmm.
small town I was from with my family who had lived there their whole life. So I think getting out of that early on probably is the reason for my success. If I didn't do that, I'm not sure. It's hard to say, right? Like maybe my personality, maybe I would have done something else. But I think leaving home at a young age really took off a lot of the influence that my upbringing, my town would have had on me. So
Mm-hmm.
I think being very independent on a young age, I think traveling to Bali, Thailand, like on my own when I was 17, 18, always kind of made
Fuck.
me independent thinker, wanting to do my own thing. And that's kind of translated to all aspects of my life. So even when my family was like, no, like you're an idiot, go back to school, it was just like, I've not listened to you before and it's been fine. So I'm not going to start now. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I love my parents. They raised me incredibly, but they don't have the life that I want. So that's not to say they're bad people. Like I love them. They raised me amazingly for what they could, but they don't have the life I want. So I knew that if I wanted to have a life that was different from them, I needed to take different actions. And if they're telling me, if people, I think like when you're growing up, you need to be very careful who you take advice from. And you don't have to like be disrespectful if you're not taking someone's advice, if it's a family member, but you just need to ask yourself, does this person have the life I want? And if they don't, then you should really think hard about whether you should take their advice. And even if you don't know people who have the life you want, I did things like, okay, I listened to Andrew Frisella's podcast. When I was dropping out of school, I would say, like, what would he tell me to do here? And then
Mm-hmm.
that would be the advice I would follow. So and that person that I know through a podcast, through listening to them speak, what advice would they give me here? And then I would do that.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to look at it, because I've often heard as well that, like, you don't really want to be you don't want to be doing something that the advice giver gives you, just some random person, whether it's family or not family, just saying you should do this, you should invest your money this way, you should invest your time this way. You should be looking at someone's experiences, and as
Yes.
someone who has experienced something that's good or bad, that's how you should kind of learn, is like take someone's actual experience. And I'm very cognizant of that too. I don't like to just shill advice, especially even on my podcast or on my LinkedIn or my Twitter or Instagram. I like to just share, like, this is what I've done, these are my experiences, and this is how maybe I could help someone. That's the only thing we have, because otherwise you can be very misguided in a confused world. You mentioned some big kind of podcasters there, and I know you listen to Tim Ferriss as well. And funny enough, Tim Ferriss was the first podcast that I ever listened to. I was in
Really?
my college apartment. It was 6 a.m. I was going to the gym. I was in a rundown apartment. I remember listening to him, and I think it was the CEO of MailChimp. I remember my mind was just like blown. I literally was just like, what has happened? It literally set the course for my entire life, man. I was like
Yeah.
21, 22. I started ecom then. I should have kept it up, for fuck's sake. Started ecom then at that point, and it was that kind of influence. And even though my friends weren't that interested in it, I just always had that in the back of my head. And then I
Me too.
came back around.
Yeah.
So who were some of your kind of like earlier influences, and especially as time has gone on, like when you started to get into ecom?
Yeah, so Tim Ferriss for sure. MFCO Project and Frisella, Ed Milet. I listened to a lot of his
Hmm.
stuff. Bedros Koulian, a lot of those guys. And then I started reading more. I think like you said, any advice that people like us give, I don't think it's ever a good idea to say like you should do this. Instead, it's this is my experience and this is what I learned and, and this is what worked for me. So I think early on for me, I took a lot of value from these almost self-help motivational style podcasts. But then as I progressed in business, I pivoted towards more actionable advice. So things like
Mhm.
Hormozy or like these more actionable business, like even business books about how to do XYZ rather than just about motivation or what type of person you should be. But pivoting from like this got me started to actually learning about business later on. So books like $100 million offers or um, different ones like that give hard actionable advice you can then implement in your business right away.
Mhm.
So I think
Because I think
like the mentors I took pivoted from like kind of like general self help motivation to more like specific things. Where that's now all I really listen to is I'm not going to go listen to like a motivational book, but specific actionable stuff I want to learn.
you know what you need to do every day at this stage. You know, of
Yeah,
course, you can add more to it, but you're not looking to. I can get started, not even go 0 to 1, just like, get off the couch. I think from that instance, like you're very much like at that kind of point, which is cool because that shows the development of a lot of people, and I was quite similar as well. Like you're kind of pissing around, don't know what you want to do, and then you're
yeah.
over time thinking like I'm waking up and this is what I'm focusing on. That's why I kind of wanted to ask you about why you picked ecom in general, though. Like as in you had different options and you were looking for something that was, low cost business model to start. But why was it that? Why didn't you start an agency?
Honestly, it was just the first thing I came across. I honestly, looking back, I don't think I even knew what an online agency was or even knew the concept. Ecom was just
Mhm.
like, I think, I think if you just picked like 100 people out of a university and just said like, what's an online business model? I think like 95 of them would probably say ecom. And I probably was one of
Mhm.
those 95. I didn't even know you could start an agency and offer services to ecom businesses. I didn't even see it as an option. And the ecom business model I ended up going with, which is like high ticket dropshipping, is it's actually it's a real business. Like you have a corporation, you have business credit cards, business bank accounts, real supplier agreements and relationships, and it still only costs a couple $1,000s to get off the ground. So I think
Mhm.
the actual business, like the fact that it's an actual business and I could do it for relatively low capital, just made sense for me, and that's why I went with it.
Interesting, man. What do you think about like the kind of I guess attitude towards like drop shipping? People are saying they're like, oh, like it's not, sustainable. I know you're picking high ticket as a result, but do you face any negative kind of feedback as a result of like you going into drop shipping or people coming back saying that it's not a proper brand?
So yes, but I think once people understand the business model I do, they understand that it is a real business. So, like for example, Wayfair operates on the business model, a multi-billion-dollar company. There's people the listeners can go look like barbecueguys.com, bbqguys.com, drop shipping, high ticket drop shipping brand doing like $500 million a year.
Mhm.
Woodland Direct, they sell like fireplaces, fire pits, a couple $100 million a year. So I think it's hard to say that it's not a business model when you have companies literally like public companies doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year using the exact same business model. It's essentially like if you just imagine like when you go to Home Depot or Walmart, you're not buying Home Depot branded products. You're buying brands who Home Depot retails for. So it's the
Mhm.
same concept, except it's just online. So we partner with existing brands, like luxury brands, and then we sell online for them. So we're a marketplace. So we're just essentially like if you go to Expedia and book a hotel, we're Expedia for the brands.
Mhm.
So
Can you talk me through that process of with the suppliers? It seems quite complicated.
yeah. So like if I wanted to, like let's say I'm starting a sauna store, I would then find the suppliers of saunas in the US. I would reach out and say, hey, I'm Brooke. I own XYZ store. Interested in partnering with you and listing your products. This is our marketing plan. This is how we plan to get you customers. This is how we plan to treat your customers. This is the value we're going to add to your business. We'll deal with customer service. So it's very symbiotic. So the e-com store, me, I do all the marketing. I deal with all the customer service, and the brand manufactures, warehouse, and ships. So they never have to talk to the customer. They don't have to spend any money on ads. We do that. They just manufacture, ship, and warehouse. So it's very symbiotic and it works for both parties. And then the
Mm.
process as a customer, like let's say you're buying a sauna, you would type in, you would already know the brand probably that you want to buy. So like let's say you're buying name brand Y sauna. You would go to Google, type in brand Y sauna. I would be targeting that term you're searching. So you would see my ad, you would click my website, you would go place the order through me. I would get, like, let's say you send me $8,000 for the sauna. I send the brand 5,500. They ship the product directly to you without ever seeing or touching it. I keep the 2,500. Is essentially the business model.
That's wild, man. How about the actual delivery method? Like, is it quick, or is it like really delayed? Like drop shipping has the kind of reputation for
So yeah, like the usual drop shipping is shipping from China, so it takes like, I don't know, I think it's lower
6
now, like
weeks.
a few weeks at least. This usually
Mm-hmm.
takes about 7 to 10 days. So with a lot of the products, they're shipping freight, so they're not shipping FedEx. They're shipping like on a big truck. So usually about
Mm-hmm.
7 to 10 days. But when customers find that out, like, they're not surprised. Like if I order a 700-pound sauna, I'm not expecting it to show up tomorrow. Like usually a week to 10 days is fine. So it is faster than the usual drop shipping, but it's also like shipping freight, so it's not like a 1 day delivery situation or anything
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Can you talk me through, like, even when you're partnering with suppliers, because maybe they have their own internal process and they don't want to outsource to or bring you to another marketplace. They may well want to keep it or just use Amazon or just use, I don't know, whatever platform they're using. So how come like you can get those relationships, and how difficult it is it to sign those long term relationships?
The more established you become, the easier it gets. So when you're starting out and you have none, you usually have to start at the bottom, and then you get a few, and then you can contact the higher up ones, and they'll see that you have some on your store, and then they'll be willing to work with you. So the more sales you get, the more suppliers you get, the more it's kind of like a positive feedback loop. The more suppliers that work with you, then other suppliers see you selling their stuff, and then they don't want to miss out, so then they work with you. So at the beginning, it's definitely an uphill battle, but as you get going, it becomes easier and easier. And the value proposition for them is just they get free customers essentially. So they don't have to worry about marketing. They don't have to spend any money on it. Like the alternative would be they have to hire a bunch of agencies to run their Google ads, run their Facebook ads, do their SEO, do their email marketing, and all that adds up expense wise, and also logistically they have to manage all these agencies directly. Where they can just sign an agreement, send some pictures to the store, and then the store will do everything and just send them orders. So it's a
Hmm.
lot easier for them internally.
How did you find that approach to do this? Did you learn it, or did you kind of apply it yourself?
So Tim Ferriss actually recommends this approach, something like this, in the 4 Hour Work
No
Week.
way.
So he says, yeah, like sell products from other brands online. I don't think he recommends the thousands of dollars like I do. I think he recommends a few hundred. But I first heard it there, and then I listened to a couple of podcasts of people who have done it, and I bought a couple of info products, and then I think that got me started, but very much figured a lot of it out on my own as I went as well.
Mm. Very quite unique in that regard, because of course like there's so many different like variations of like average shit, and that's why you're kind of making it much more premium and much more branded, which is kind
Yeah.
of the whole kind of approach. Do you have like an actual like name of it, like a proper design of the web page? Everything is like proper like UX UI optimized, or is it you're just channeling new products through? How do you kind of run that side of it?
So we run it all in Shopify. So we have like developers and stuff build the website. So it is like definitely optimized.
Mm.
Um, but we have like tens of thousands of products. So I think I have like 80 brands in my store, over 12,000 products. So it's not like a usual drop shipping is like one product store. You just run ads to one landing page and that's the website. So it's nothing like that. Like I have literally, yeah, over 10,000 products from like multiple brands. So it's very much like a marketplace, an online marketplace.
Mm. And people are coming on searching what they want, and you're having a combination of all this very high value products as a result.
Exactly. Exactly.
Man, that's actually it's so unique as well from that perspective. Like I know you're bringing a lot of people through this learning process, but for you, like how do you scale it up? So you said you had 30,000, 100,000. What have you done in the first year in terms of revenue?
The first year, I think I did over 3.5 million for sure. So the highest month I hit was in my eighth month. I think I hit 600,000. I honestly scaled too quickly. So when we went from like 30 to 150 to 220 to 250 to 280 to 400 to 600 within like 8 months. But
What?
when we hit 600, my return on advertise return on advertising expense like wasn't great. Like I think I was getting $8 in sales for every dollar on ads, which conventionally is very good. But with our
Hmm.
business model, we want to have more like 12 to 15. So I wasn't making as much profit as I should have been on the 600K. And there's just so many orders and so many sales coming through that I hadn't built the back end of the business to handle that. And we started getting like chargebacks and stuff. So it was like chargebacks, return on ad spend wasn't high enough. So I said like, okay, like, we got to cut down the ad spend and scale more efficiently and slowly. And then ever since then, we've been between like 200 and 400,000 a month, and just really focusing on getting organic traffic. Because if you can get free traffic, like let's say if my margin is 30% on a product and I have to spend 10 to acquire that customer, my net will then be 20. Where if I made that same sale organically, then I would keep all 30. So it's very easy the easiest way to increase your profit is to stay at the same revenue and get more sales free using
Mm.
organic. So that's really been my focus over the last year, is getting organic traffic and really, really boosting our return on ad spend to increase our profits at somewhat stable revenue. Just from an operational perspective, it's a lot easier to scale and manage that way.
That's interesting, man. How are you doing that organically? So, of course, your big personal brand and your brand is growing, which we'll get into as well. But are you using it for your website, just SEO all around, like the saunas that you're selling too? Like, can you walk me through that process?
Yeah, so SEO, there's a few different buckets. So we want to write blogs, but when people go to a blog page, they're not a buyer. So we want to rank the collection, the category pages. So like for example, a page that I would want to rank is two-person saunas or two-person infrared saunas. So what we do is we put content on those pages, the collection pages, and then we write blog posts, and then we link internally on the website from the blog posts to the collection pages. And then the goal is to get backlinks from other websites to the blog posts. So the train would go high authority website in the sauna space, linking to
Mhm.
one of my blog posts, one of my blog posts internally linking on my website to one of these category pages with the goal of ranking that page high on Google for a term like two-person saunas. So then if we can rank on the first page of Google for two-person saunas, a category page, someone clicks that link, they go and see a bunch of two-person saunas. So
Mm.
that is how we actually attract buyers using SEO. We don't blog posts can be helpful, but it's usually there's different types of keywords. So there's informational based keywords. That's like how hot does a sauna get? That person searching that isn't looking to buy. So it can be helpful, but then we want to link that page to the category page where if someone's searching like two-person infrared sauna in two-person infrared sauna or um, cedar wood far infrared light infrared sauna. Like these people are looking to buy. So those are the terms we
Mhm.
want to target.
Mm. But who's written that content? Do you have copywriters?
I have a team. So we have a team,
Nice.
but usually we outsource the content. So I have like someone who will essentially schedule the post, send it off, what needs to be written, and then they'll post it on the website once the content's done.
How have you built that up? So, like, let's say you're going back from when you were going from 30K to 100K. Like, when did you start hiring up that team that you needed? Okay, you need a copywriter, you need the web development kind of side of things to constantly be growing and scaling because you have 80,000 products. You're going to run into scalability and infrastructure issues. So, like, how are you approaching that from a operations perspective?
So my first hire was actually my current COO of the business. So I hired her before I made a sale. So she was with me from the very beginning. When I hired her, she was essentially just doing product uploads for me. So then how I hired was she was before I made a sale. Then when we hit about 100K, we hired a full-time customer service rep. So her, the COO now, and the customer service rep would do customer service and back-end products. So it would kind of both do everything.
Hmm.
Then and I was doing ads. And then the next hire, we hired a catalog manager. So the catalog manager's only job is uploading products, making sure inventory is up to date, making sure pricing is up to date, and the other two are still doing customer service. So there's kind of two positions you would hire for is like front end customer service, phone, chat, email, and back end catalog, pricing, inventory updates, product uploads. So I have a team of six, three and three, and the COO now who manages both teams. So
Doing
seven.
400K a month
Yeah.
is
And then
pretty impressive, man.
the only thing I haven't outsourced to this point is ads.
Hmm. But again, you're doing it much more organically. So
Exactly.
that's not a big, yeah, exactly. It's not a big lever for you to pull.
Yeah, we are still much more profitable with ads than we have been in the past. Like I think,
Hmm.
yeah, that 1 month we're at like 8 return, and then we bounced around like 10 for a while, but now we're at like 15, 16, which is super super
Hmm.
high. So
What made you want to start outsourcing, or not outsourcing, but automating some of it? Like, what kind of change in your brain there? Were you working very heavy in the beginning?
yeah, I was working my ass off like the first I guess 7, 8 months, like I would be at parties taking customer calls in the bathroom, like trying to sell sale, like trying to sell something. It was a mess. Like when I was in Eastern time zone, so when I would be asleep at like 2 a.m., I would get
Mhm.
calls from customers in California, and I would like wake up on the middle of the night and like make the sale on the phone at like 2. It just wasn't. It was. I was in the trenches per se, but it wasn't sustainable. Like I would have lost my
Yeah.
mind if I kept doing that. So I guess that's been a big lesson for me overall in business is when you get started, you're kind of the one that just does everything. You don't really have a choice. But as I've progressed, I'm very cognizant of what I focus my time on. So for me, with the ecom business, it was like the two highest levers I can pull are improving our ads, getting free traffic, and closing high end suppliers. And that should be all my time doing those three things, and everything else I should be outsourcing. So I can just focus on these three things. So if I just do these three things, that's going to be the best for the business, and then let the team handle
Mhm.
the customer service, the order submissions, the uploading products, the inventory, all this other very time consuming, stressful, monotonous stuff that isn't the right thing for the business owner to be doing as soon as you can actually afford to outsource it.
And you're learning that man through like pain, and basically like 6 months or 7 months of that. You know what I mean? Like proper pain. But you seem to have like a really your focus really really dialed in though. Is that something you work on yourself personally?
Yeah, like I think now anytime I'm doing something, I'm just like, how can I like is should I be doing this? Like can I get someone else to do a 95% as good a job of me as me?
Mm.
And if yes, then I shouldn't be doing it. Like the only things I should be doing are things that only I can do. And if I can outsource it, then I should outsource it. So I think just freeing up headspace is some of the highest ROIs. Ever since I've been to Dubai, a big focus for me has just been like, how can I free up my headspace? So I got an executive assistant who like, if I need to wait on hold with the bank, she'll call the bank, wait on hold, and just put me on the phone when they're ready. Like rather than having to wait on hold, or if I need groceries, she'll order the groceries. If I book a flight, she'll book a flight. If I need to buy a gift for someone, she'll buy the gift. So all of my time is essentially just focused on business now.
Mhm.
And then when I have all this time to focus on business, and then I combine that with everything I do in business, I'm asking myself, like, is this something that I should be doing? If not, delegating it. So all my time now is just super hyper focused on these super high leverage things with a clear head.
100%, man. And I actually do something very similar. I have a cleaner for all that, take care of
Yeah.
all like my groceries and everything. And that's really what I want to go towards because I don't want to be spending like 4 hours fucking doing laundry a week. You know what I mean? It's
No.
just like it's just pointless. But that's even just on a lifestyle aspect, which I'm very interested as well what you do versus like even the business side of things. Because I think the business side of stuff is very much what I'm more struggling with, I guess, trying to outsource some of that because I guess my expertise has been the last couple of years I've been invested in this industry. So bringing someone else in that doesn't have that experience is quite difficult. There's
Yeah.
not many people who have a lot of years of experience in podcasting, which is the struggle, but also it's part of SOPs, right operations, scaling it up and trying to get to the next level. And that's definitely something that I need to start zeroing in on more. You know, you've done a great job on that, and it's so interesting how you've done it in such a short period of time too.
Yeah. I think it's honestly, I think I'm naturally very lazy as a person. So I think that probably like I'm not someone like if I'm not going to go upload products for 3 weeks. Like it's just not going to happen. So I have to
Okay.
figure out a way to get that off of my plate, so I can work on things that I want to enjoy, and two, I'm actually going to see payoff from. Or if I don't
Yeah.
see how this is going to help the business, then I don't feel motivated to do it per se.
100%, yeah. So that's closing bigger deals, or suppliers, or getting all that stuff kind of focused in the early days. That's kind of interesting because now that you've gone into your coaching program, I wanted to ask you about that before we even discuss the coaching program. Is like, so you had your single focus and you're really really focused on that, and then you split your focus by essentially creating the coaching business. Was that something that kind of came at odds with the business at certain times? I definitely find that as well sometimes personally.
Definitely in terms of time, but I think they complement one another. So the best way that you can improve your knowledge is often teaching other people the same knowledge.
Hmm.
So it really helped me automate the business. And I don't think that the ecom business I have now will be the ecom business I have forever. So right now I just look at it as a completely passive income vehicle, essentially. My time
Hmm.
is largely spent on the coaching business and the personal brand, but I think over time I will then pivot to actually creating my own brand. That will be my long-term 10, 20-year play. So
Hmm.
now I essentially went from debt, got out of debt, got out of law using this business model. And then I'm essentially teaching other people to do the same thing now. But I think long term, my vision will be to start my own brand using all the skills that I've taken from this business model.
What type of brand would that be?
It'll be a high ticket brand. So probably something
Yeah.
in the wellness space, saunas, workout equipment, something biohacking related for sure.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. So going through that actual coaching business, what was the catalyst for that? Because you see a lot of people that will start like, let's say, an agency and then try to sell the service of helping people start an agency, but they've done none of the work. But you've obviously gone and established yourself. You have the numbers. You've backed it up. So was there people like reaching out? How did that kind of work?
I think there's two main things. So I started the first year, I didn't have any social media presence. I had like no
Yeah.
Twitter, no LinkedIn. I had Instagram with like 3 posts. And then I started, I don't know why, I just had a gut feeling that I wanted to start sharing my story online. So I purchased like a program that would essentially teach me how to make content and start posting. And I did that. And then I would get so many requests of people asking me like how I was doing what I was doing. And I knew because of the info products I bought that there was no solution on the market to teach this. Like the ones I bought, people think like I had a smooth journey, like I had quick success, which on face I did. But there was a lot of struggles. There was a lot of wasted money. There was a lot of really hard lessons because I didn't have what I've now built. So to
Hmm.
me, it was just like I have all these. I'm sure started sharing my story online. People asking me what to do, and I was just doing one-on-one consulting for a while. And then I actually had an agency for a bit. Like I was doing like Google Ads on the side of my store because that was my specialty that led to my store success was my Google Ads expertise with that. So I started offering that to other people, and I joined Client Ascension, which is like a coaching program for agency owners to kind of like
Hmm.
figure out how to do that with that. And then I thought like, wow, like this is exactly what I needed when I was building my ecom store. This like group of entrepreneurs who have actually done it teaching people. So I thought like there's nothing like this. There's a clear opportunity in the market. I have tons of people asking me for advice. I just need to create this. And then that's what I did.
Hmm.
Clear opening
That's
in the
awesome,
market.
man.
Yeah. So it wasn't an idea I had that I purposely did. It was more just I started sharing my story, had people reaching out, and then I just saw like a clear opening in the marketplace and a ton of demand for it. So it just made sense.
Hmm. Yeah, especially when you start doing the consulting, and that was something that kind of helped me, I guess, in the beginning too. Was that when people are coming to you with problems, you're quickly realizing what can be productized and what you can turn into courses or group coaching or whatever it is. But when you have the personal effect, so yeah, you did it yourself, but then you've also done it with other people on the line. That gives you great groundings for how you're going to go build out your own coaching program. Then
Exactly. Exactly.
how did you how was it set up? So I know a couple of guys that are actually in your course at the moment, but how do you set this up so it's like to service everyone? Because of course, like not all these coaching programs are anyway decent.
Yeah. So a few different things. I think first, a lot of people say like, "Oh, your course." Like, I don't think of it as a course. I think of it as
Yeah.
a program. So yes, there is a course component, but most courses, when you go in, you get all the modules from module 1 to module 10. You watch through, and then you just kind of go through them, take action. Maybe you throw a question in a Facebook group or a Discord, but that's essentially the setup. With mine, it's you join the program, you get put in, you get assigned a one-on-one customer success manager who's already built a successful store themselves. So you can meet with them as
Sorry.
much as you want, and there's 5 or 6 of them. So as soon as you join, you get put in a Slack channel with me and 5 or 6 success coaches, and you have immediate responses from us all day long on Slack, anything you do. And then the program's set up drip fed format. So you join, you get module 1. That's it. You have to set up your business. You have to pick your niche. You don't get any of the other stuff. So it's like you get a checklist. Do X, Y, Z. As soon as you're done this, meet with your success coach, select your niche. They'll help you actually pick the most profitable niche. And then once we pick your niche, okay, then we'll give you the next step. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you do the next step, you meet with us again, and then you get the next step. So it's very sequential, step by step, and that really helps with accountability. So many people will buy an info
100%.
product or a course, they'll go through, and they just will never do anything at all.
Yeah.
So this system, like we've built in accountability to it, so you can't even get the next step until you do the first step. And then every
Mm-hmm.
week we follow up with you. Hey, Darren, what did you do this week? What were the 3 biggest levers you did this week? What are your 3 biggest goals for next week? And then we'll message you next week. Hey, did you get XYZ done? No. Okay, why
Mm-hmm.
not? So it's very much like we're holding you hand or your hand, pushing you, holding you accountable throughout the entire process with very clear checklists of exactly what you need to get done. So if you don't do it, it's not like you just joined the program and fell off and no one tried to contact you. It's like
Yeah.
we've literally done everything we can to like make you take the actions that are going to lead to success. And I think that's why we have so many case studies. It's not because the like I had for a long time, I don't now, but a completely free course, which was essentially the same information as in my paid program. But the value of the paid program is everything except the content. It's the
Yeah.
coaching, it's the mentorship, the accountability. Like that's where the value of the group is.
100%, man. And I resonate with that so much. So, like, the reason why I started my agency, right, was because I was doing, when I was working my 9 to 5, I did a lot of consulting on the podcast side of stuff with big brands. Like, big brands would reach out and be like, what is this? Whatever. I would sit down with someone similar to yourself and I would tell them exactly how to do something. Like, this is the way it should be structured, set up, the format. They would pay. We would come back 2 weeks later and then I'd be like, okay, what happened? And they're like, nothing happened. I'm like, what? And I'm like, what? And
Yeah.
then, but they would pay again and they keep on going. So I stopped doing it. And then what I said was, I was like, look, fuck it. I'll just do it for you. That's exactly what happened. I goes, I'll just do it. And then my team then grew to start doing that done for you model. And I speak to some other coaches previously, and I said, like, I'm always saying that. I'm like, do you ever just feel like that no one does the stuff? And some people are like, yeah, but they pay. And I'm like, no, I don't want that at all. I want to exchange knowledge, and then they'll go and make their life better, whether it's building a store or building a brand or building whatever, But did you ever kind of struggle with that? Did you ever have people that literally, before you started adding in the accountability piece, because you must have came to that realization somehow?
Still, man, still to this day, people will join and they'll just be like 50 messages from us tagging them and they'll just never respond.
But they pay, and they pay thousands.
Yes, yeah, and it's tough. Like it sucks. But I think at the same time, it's like um, everything we can do. Like I think it's irresponsible to just say like, "Oh, it's their fault. They didn't do it. They
Hmm.
paid. They didn't do it." Like I think it's kind of under if you're in a mastermind like mine, like it's what like Alex Becker would call forced results, forced adoption. Like we need to do everything on our end to like make this person take the actions to succeed. Like message them every day, following up with them every day, giving them clear checklists that if they don't complete, they don't even get access to the next step. Like everything that we can bake into the program structure to actually make this person do this. If we
Hmm.
do that, then I don't think there's anything else we can do. Like I don't think we can. You can't go into someone's body and make them do the stuff. As long as the program's set up
100%.
in a way that is like everything that we can possibly do to make them do it without actually doing it for them. Like it's not a done for you program. It's a done with
Hmm.
you program. So as long as we're doing everything on our end to hold them accountable, to make it as easy as possible, and every week we have an anonymous feedback form that essentially says, "Hey, if there is anything at all that you think I can do to improve the program, here, submit it anonymously. You don't even have to tell me your name. I just want to know how I can make this better for you. Keeping in mind
Yeah.
that this is a done with you program. We're not going to go do it for you, but if there's anything we can do to make this easier for you, tell me." So then
Mm.
over time, when you get your feedback from your customers, you can start implementing things. So now people were struggling with ads. They would watch the modules, they just couldn't get it right. Okay. So now I hired a Google Ads person, and all they do is go in students' accounts and fix it for them. So
Mhm.
we just kind of like plug. It's called like removing obstacles. Wherever people are having obstacles in your program, put in solutions to remove them for them. And
Mhm.
over time, if you continually optimize that over a course of months and years, yes, there's always going to be people who join and just don't do anything. But over time, you're making it easier and easier and easier for that person to have success. And as long as we're doing that, I don't think that I don't feel guilty per se. Like I'm doing everything I can to make this person go through the process and get results. And if they don't, then that's on them.
Of course, and you're refining the process. You're making it better, making it more streamlined. There's a lot of comparison there. I see with this guy called George Armstrong. He's based in Dubai too. He has like a physical coaching, like training coaching program, and he was saying that like basically he would be on the phone to people, being like, "You're not giving up the program," and they would be like, "I want to give up," and he's like, "No, no, no, you're not giving up," because he's like
Yeah.
so committed to doing it. And obviously that's like a super intense approach. But I remember like seeing the clip from it and just being like, fuck, like that's what it takes, because that's the reason why I stopped kind of doing the consulting side of things. I was like, there's something wrong with my approach. 100, it's 100% my approach. So my question off that is like, how did you build your coaching program? Because you were obviously in the trenches doing ecom, and now you moved into a different vertical. Were you working with people? How does that come about?
Yeah. So I think just the one thing I realized early on is the people not getting results isn't because of a lack of information. Like I think you can go on YouTube and pretty much learn
Yeah.
anything that you need to know to do anything. The lack of results comes from lack of taking action and lack of accountability. So therefore, the info obviously needs to be in the program, but that isn't. I think starting with the mindset that the value is going to be in the information is the wrong mindset. I think what people need is accountability, clear steps, clear checklists, and like people to actually hold them accountable and hold their hand through it and make it as easy as possible with a group, with a community to go through the process with. So I think that's the value of a group. It's not the information. So I think if you start with that in mind, then you can structure your program accordingly. Because
Mm.
that was I noticed when I was doing the one-on-one consulting. Like I would tell people, this is what you need to do. And the same thing as you. I'll go on the call next week. Sometimes they wouldn't even show up for the call. Sometimes they would just cancel the call. And after they'd already paid me money. So it's like, okay, I need to then build the program or build the product, the program with this in mind to like make this make this person get results however I can.
So you said mentioned about the community page, and that kind of leads on to your personal brand as well to some degree. So biggest thing with community is the volume of individuals, like trying to get that group in there so that they're all helping each other. How did you build that community? Like how do you essentially build up this large user base?
Yeah, just sharing online my story of like what worked for me on Twitter was the main thing that built it. Just giving out free value. And
Yeah,
then when I started having people join the program, they would get results, case studies, and then it's been a refinement process over time, essentially.
that's really cool, man. How does the community structured? So like do people like share their wins? Like why do people need that community aspect?
Yeah, so wins are big. So I think like when you join a program like any ecom program, like if any person joins, the first thing is like they need to see other people who were just like them who had success. As soon as you see someone else who is just like you, who used this system to have success, you're immediately going to have such a higher level of self belief, which will then feel you're actually taking action. Like if you join a group of 200 people and there's nobody sharing in the wins channel, there's nobody writing in the group chats, you're probably not going to feel very good about your purchase. Where
Yeah.
if you go into a community and there's like people sharing wins every day, there's people active in the channels, they're helping each other out, responding to each other's questions. All of a sudden, you're part of something, and you're not just on this journey. You're on your own. You're on this journey with all these other people, and I think that's super important. And one thing I struggled with is early on, I found business very lonely when I had my first business by myself without that community. Like I didn't even have social media. So I had nobody to go through it with, really, which was very lonely. So I think when you have a group of a bunch of people doing the same thing as you, it's a lot easier to put the work in, and especially when you see those people having success, as you can watch
Yeah.
this person was in this job, they tripled their salary, and now do this full time in under 5 months using the exact system that I just got. And then you're excited about taking action.
100%, man. That's something that I definitely feel as well. That I think like the fact that my agency is a bit different now. Obviously, every agency is like a variation of an agency, but the fact that I kind of feel like I'm kind of on my own is a bit more difficult sometimes from that perspective. Like that's why I have my podcast, because I often say like, should I just be working during these hours? Like I record like so many hours a week of podcasting, but it's like this is my way to obviously like network with individuals like yourself, but also to kind of have that shared vision, even though we're in complete different verticals,
Yeah,
which
but
is very valuable for people. But
we're
on
on
the
the
same path.
I think it's even better
That's
because like we're both on very different paths in terms of what we're doing, but we're on the same path. I think at a higher level, and you
mhm,
probably have insights that I would have no idea about that I can apply to my business, and I probably have insights that you would have no idea about that you can then apply to your business. So I think at our level, like networking with other people who do different things is super valuable, super high ROI, rather than just doing people talking to people doing the exact same thing as you. Like it's probably just a
yeah.
lot of regurgitated information, but getting those different perspectives is very, very high ROI time.
100%. Like, sure, before we were talking, we were chatting, before we started recording, we were chatting about Dubai. And I was with Jack Hopkins the other day, and we were like sitting down, and then I was like, how does your bank account work? And he was like, "What is how my bank account works?" And he's like, broke the whole thing down. And I was like, what the fuck? I literally was like, what the hell? And then he like asked me a question, and then I was like, he was talking about like his lead flow. And I was like, I know a guy who actually can automate your entire leads. And he was like, no way. I was like, yeah, here's his Twitter. And that was like, it was like 30 seconds. And
Yes.
then we have complete different verticals. And I was like, thumbs up, all happy. That was it. So
Yeah.
that's like the value of it, I guess. That it's very difficult to quantify sometimes. But it's quite interesting because I built my podcast not with the intent of me. because I was super, super like inexperienced at the time. I'd barely got into my career because I've been doing this for many years. And I very rarely shared my story. It's only been the last couple of kind of, I guess, months, I'd say. I guess I have. I've done 150 episodes. So my kind of personal brand, which is why my accounts are actually not that high of like a followership, but the podcast is very strong. That's where it's so strange. Big following on a podcast, but not big following on like generic platforms, which is quite interesting. You're the inverse, whereby you blew up really quickly on places like Twitter and Instagram. How did you do that? Because I think you worked with another agency you mentioned before, but how you approached your personal brand.
Yeah, so I worked with I'm not sure if you know like Logue Fitz, Nick Rogers. So they have a
Yep.
program called like Launch Socials. So that was the first thing I did in Twitter. I remember I thought I wanted to start on Instagram. That's where I wanted to start, but they said like no, like you need to get Twitter. And they introduced me to essentially what we would know as money Twitter. And that really just sharing my story on there. And then I was in Client Ascension. I only had like one Google Ads agency client, and then I stopped to do the coaching program. But even just being in that community, we had like something from September till end of October. I wrote a thread a day on Twitter for like 60 days straight, something like that. So that really fueled my growth when I like went all in on the content side of things. And I think honestly, like I took a lot of value from that myself, is when you have like these ideas in your head and then you're forced to put them down in a Twitter thread that will make sense to other people, it really helps you refine your own thinking. And then all of my Twitter threads were essentially the basis for what would turn into my coaching program, the content in it. So it all kind of led one thing to another.
That's really cool. How did you structure like that approach? Were you writing everything yourself, or did you like hire like a ghostwriter or something?
Yeah, everything myself. I did eventually
Yeah,
hire
man.
a ghostwriter for a bit earlier this year in 2023. But honestly, it just like when I read it, like I knew people would know it wasn't me. So I just, I don't have one anymore. It's just me.
Yeah, like that's the thing, and I think everyone like it's like going on steroids. It's like the cheap option.
Yes.
Like you can just do it, of course, but I'm like, but do you learn the skills? So like obviously I do a lot of copy for my podcast, and then I was like, so actually I'm bit of backstory. I'm actually dyslexic, but
Really?
I would say quite mild, right? Or whatever. I think I was false diagnosed. That's the way I describe it these days. But I got really into writing through my podcast because I was always sharing like clips and stories and newsletters and stuff. And then when I brought to social media about my actual podcast and about my agency and my offer, I started getting a lot better at it. And then at that point, then when I was doing kind of okay but not doing great, I started getting offers to being like for ghostwriting. And then I was like, do I really want to outsource to something that's very personal to me and also which can help me in my business and my thoughts and crystallizing? So now as a result, I obviously didn't do it, but I just write what comes up in my sales calls.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a good example. The other day, this guy, quite old, he wants to move into video podcasting. And this may seem easy to us, but it's not to older people. And he was like, I just can't crack the video. He was like, I feel uncomfortable with it. I don't know what to do. And I went out to my kitchen table. I took a picture of 2 bottles on a table and 1 camera. And I was like, this is how you do it. This is how you set it up. And I was like, this will work. And he was like, will it work? I was like, yeah, use an iPhone 14. It'll work. Trust me, it'll get you from 0 to 1. And he was like, yeah, great. Thank you. Like, really appreciated it. And then just that process led me to write a lot of content on how to write, to set up your video, to engage your video, to make sure it's much more interactive, to engage with your audience, all this kind of stuff. So I just think that like you can use your experiences if you sit down and really think about it and like really think like, okay, what am I learning and how this is important and how it's valuable for either a customer or a follower. And I don't have a big following at all, but it's that principle that I'm trying to apply, which has been very helpful for me.
Makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
And I think
Just something
like,
different perspective.
yeah, like even for me, like it goes back to what we were talking about a bit earlier. Like content for me for the coaching business is probably the highest ROI thing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is just like write valuable content because that's what will grow my following. That's what will bring people into the coaching program. So it's very time consuming, but to me, that's something that's worth my time. And it sounds like same for you. Like you get, even if it's not direct, you do get ROI from doing this, right? Like it helps you crystallize your own thoughts and it's valuable. So, and it goes back to the other thing, like you're the only one who can do that at that level. No one can
Mm-hmm.
write content like you, no matter who you outsource it to. It's not going to be there. And same with me.
Mm-hmm. I love that, man. I love that. How have you kind of put the thread together between Twitter and your Instagram reels? Because like they're super high quality, man. I want to find out what camera you're using, number one. But it seems like that your reels are replications of maybe your threads or something previously.
Yeah. So I use Sony AS4, I think it's called, but essentially like what you said
Yeah.
is true. Like I imagine Twitter as my idea board. So like if I'm throughout the day, if I have an idea in business, I'll just make a tweet about it. Or if I have an insight about something, I'll tweet about it. And then the tweets that perform well, I can just create a reel on the same insight, not the exact same words, but the same underlying meaning. Just create a short communicating that, and I already know it's going to
Mm.
do well because I already tweeted and it did well. And then the reels that do well, then I can make a full length YouTube video on the ones that do well. So it's kind of like think of Twitter as idea board. And then the tweets that do well, I can turn into short form content on reels. And the reels that do well, I can make long form video content on. I think
Interesting.
Hormozy
It's
recommended doing that. I think that's where I first got it from.
it's a good idea, man. You could turn that into a newsletter too. Some of them
Well, Twitter
and go.
threads. So if I write a Twitter thread that does really well, email. Super easy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting, man. You're in a nice niche as well of drop shipping because it's like the word is very like SEO driven or searchable, whatever. So it's kind of like you're at the right place, right time, I guess. It's kind of like crypto 2021. If you wrote anything about crypto or a YouTube video about crypto, would have blown up a lot more than, let's say, now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
There's much more activity around it. So even your YouTube videos that I've seen, some of them very well because of the fact that one, your authority, obviously your content's not bullshit, but it's like you have that alignment between your content and the niche.
I think it's two things. I think it's drop shipping is like you said before, it has a bit of a bad name and for a good reason. Like you're selling junk quality products from China with long lead times. Customers are going to be pissed off. So like it deserves the bad name it gets. Where what I do, it's high ticket drop shipping. So it's like a unique mechanism, what people call in business. So like it's a new solution. It's a solution to an old problem. Okay, so we can actually we can still do drop shipping, but we can sell high quality products with fast lead times that cost over $1,000 and have happy customers. So it's has all the solutions to the old problem. And then
Mm-hmm.
so it's a unique mechanism is what people would say. It's the same as like I'm not sure if you follow Greg O'Gallagher, Kino Body Fitness.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like okay, so I can actually be in shape and I can work out twice a week. I can eat whatever I want and all I have to do is fast till this time and I can work out twice a week, lift super heavy, and I can get the same result. So I think it's like that.
Mm,
You do the same sort of thing instead of trying to get in shape. It's I'm going to do drop shipping, but as this new solution. And that's what
mm.
fueled my growth is there have been people who have done high ticket drop shipping before, but not on Twitter. I was probably the first person to ever bring that to Twitter, which is why Twitter blew up so fast.
That's really cool because you can find something that's worked and then make it much more applicable towards your audience. So, to give an example of like my agency, there's a lot of podcast agencies, but a lot of them are 50-year-old dudes who have a background in film, still think that the whole world is run on audio. Whereas I'm 27, I know that majority of people in the world just watch short form content. I can tie some creator podcasts to that short form content and loop it back around to newsletters and info products.
Exactly.
So, and it's only because I'm 27 that I can do it. Maybe some 23-year-old could probably do it better than I can. But the fact that, my girlfriend's watching a TikTok video makes me realize that that's what it is. So does that make sense? We have like that edge from our experience, demographic, and just the fact that you said like money Twitter, bringing that to that unique space is probably something that no one thought about before. And that's how it works. Do you think that helps you for your drop shipping or do you think that helps you for your coaching business? The
Which
brand.
so it
The brand.
definitely hurts me for my ecom business because I was
Hurts
very
you.
yeah. So I made a huge mistake. I shared my store publicly when I had like below 10,000 followers. So I made a free course that has like 8,000 people in it. But essentially, the model is like if someone knows my store, they can just go contact all my suppliers on my store. So I had my best selling supplier that they weren't taking on any new stores. So I thought like I can share it. My best supplier, I'm safe with. No one can copy them because they're not taking on any new stores. So I thought I was fine until about a month ago, they shut down their online dealer program. So I lost my best supplier, and pretty much like 8,000 people, not 8,000 people, but a large majority of them have tried to copy all my suppliers in store. So I think sharing my store publicly gave me a lot of credibility. I was probably the first person to ever do that with high ticket dropshipping to say, this is my store, which gave me a lot of trust because people can go to the website, they see it looks nice, they see all these expensive products on it, but then obviously made my brands a lot more competitive, which hurt the store, but helped the coaching business because I had that credibility. So that's why I think
Mm.
moving forward, I would prefer to create my own brand where I can share all my knowledge on Google Ads, SEO, CRO, but no one can copy me because it will be my own brand. And I can still be public.
Interesting, man.
Yeah.
I actually thought about that quite frequently in terms of when you share testimonials with existing clients. Like, will people contact them and say, "We'll fucking do half the price," or whatever, similar to your example? Because like I have a couple of clients that are like high profile individuals, like million followers or whatever. And whenever I share those stories, I know like they get like loads of requests every day.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Do you do short form content?" I try to like steal them that way. So that's something that I'm. How do you toe the balance between that, between like sharing testimonials, sharing stories without someone
Yeah.
literally stealing your girlfriend in the process?
I think like the correct way to do it, like for anyone who has a high ticket store, I would say do not tell anybody the name of the store. Like you can share your results, but then again, people say like, oh, like if like why don't you share your store name? Because it's kind of like you can't win. It's either you're being secretive, hiding information by not sharing it, or if you do share it, you just have people trying to copy you. So you have to pick which game you want to play. I guess I think if I could go back, um, obviously the store has been hurt from it. So if I was just going to go all in the store, I would say never share anything. But the coaching business has worked out great, and now I have that bigger vision to create my own brand. So I think it will be fine. But if
Mhm.
your main focus is your store and that's all you want to do, don't don't tell anybody the store name because you'll have people just see your store, go contact your suppliers, and try and rip off your store. Exactly, almost.
Isn't that such a big representation of life, though? Like, it's such a competitive world that if you think that it's not, you're going to get burnt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very interesting, man.
Yeah, big mistake. Like I remember when the day I posted on Twitter, I can see like on Google Search Console how many people. So it was like usually like organically people typing in my store name. It was usually like 80 to 100 a day, and then it was like 1,200 the day I did it. And then yeah, so uh, definitely in I lost like it was honestly not really a big issue until I lost that one main brand about a month ago. But
Mhm.
the other issue now is I have a bunch of students crushing it in my program, and I know all their suppliers. So I feel like it's almost unethical for me to then go back and try and build my store as big as I can because I feel like the students won't trust me if they have a good supplier and they see I know that, and then I just go close their supplier and put it on my store. Like
Mhm.
they're not going to trust me, right? So I think like the only real play that makes sense given my situation that will one keep my students trust, two keep me fresh in the game where I'm actually have skin in the game and I'm not just someone selling a program without doing it, is to create my own brand where people A can't copy me, B I'm not copying my students' products, and C I'm still in the game daily. So that's why I think makes the most sense for me. I'm not sure when that will be, probably in the next year sometime.
Cool, man. What have been some of your biggest challenges like that you had to overcome?
Um, I think in ecom the biggest challenges was I wasted a lot of money. I didn't know where to spend. Like I thought I would reinvest. Like for example, in SEO, the biggest thing is backlinks and high quality content. So I paid an SEO agency $40,000 and didn't get either of those things. So I saw zero results. I might as well flush the $40,000 down the drain. Another thing
Fuck.
was, yeah, another thing was I paid a mentor who I paid him $50,000 and it didn't work out. Like he would go on the phone with me and he would like take calls at the beach eating French fries, not professional at all. So I think it didn't learn anything from it. So I might as well flush that down the drain as well. So I think the biggest lessons from there is when hiring a mentor, make sure it's for a specific thing. Don't just think of someone like, oh, this person's successful in this thing. They can help me with what I'm doing. So if you're hiring a mentor or hiring a coach or joining a program, make sure it's to deliver a specific result.
Mhm.
And if it's not, it's probably not worth it. It should be to deliver a specific result. And then on the agency side of things, um, they were just rated like it was a big agency, like 500 people. So I just typed in best SEO agency online. It was like one of the ones that came up. Um, where then I got on Money Twitter, and the people on there are far more knowledgeable with little like almost smaller boutique agencies. Because like the reality is, if you have a 500-person agency, like some person making $35,000 a year in the U.S. is the one running your account. Like you're not you
Yeah.
don't have the owner of the company running your account. So I think just those were the main struggles with me in ecom. Is like I would be trying to reinvest my money to grow the business, but I just didn't know. I made very stupid investments, wasted a lot of money that way. Where that was again a big reason why I wanted to start the coaching program, so I can tell people like I can stop them from making that mistake because I didn't have anyone to tell me to stop. Like there was no instruction, no coaching on this, so I thought I was making a good decision that turned out to be a huge mistake, but I didn't have anyone to tell me any different. Where now, if a student says to me, "Hey, I'm considering investing in SEO at this agency," I would be like, "Hell no! Like, don't do that. This is who you should go to. Who can actually help you if you want that."
100%.
Yeah,
Did you pay that mentor like in one go, 50K?
it was over 2 or 3.
Oh my god! And like each time, it was like over a couple of months that no results, no information was really given.
No, none. So he had a he was one of these people who didn't have any store himself. He had run he had run a business successfully non ecom. He had it was like a I think it was an in person commercial filming agency. It's like a video production, so not ecom related.
Weird.
But
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like I think that is very unethical for a coach is to take on clients and take that much money when you don't even know how to help them. But
Yeah.
he has a very big following, so I thought like this will be a good investment. Like I don't know what I was thinking, but very hard lesson to learn. But now for anyone listening, for myself, I would say like the only time I'll pay someone to coach or mentor me is like if I'm after a very specific result and I know that they've gotten that result. That's the only time it makes sense.
Back to the experiences, at the end of the day, like you just want to work with people who have that experience, whether it's in the e-commerce space, no matter what aspect, even in the fitness, you work with someone who's a really felt fit and healthy coach, not someone who's push it too far or can't get results, someone who's living the life that you want to aspire to from a fitness perspective. I want to ask you about the lifestyle element of it. So of course you moved to Dubai and we are discussing that, and there's a lot of health benefits from there. How are you trying to structure your kind of lifestyle design now in terms of business, personally as well?
I think for me, like I like to be in one spot. Like honestly, like I was in Italy for a month in May. I had a great trip, but I enjoy my life day to day more than traveling. Like it's still
Hmm.
nice to get away sometimes to go see new places and stuff, but anything past a week or two, I think I would rather just like I was after the second week, I was just dying to get back home and get back to business. So I think for me, I don't think Dubai will be forever. Probably the next 3 to 5 years. When I start to have kids and stuff, I think I'll probably want to be in one spot, probably down south in the U.S. in Florida, maybe. My parents and my fiance's parents both live in Florida in the winter, so we want our kids to be close to their grandparents. So I
Hmm.
imagine that in the next 3 to 5 years, I'll settle down there. But for me now, it's just like health, business, and just keeping a clear head, doing things that I enjoy, working with good people. Like now, the coaching business is at a stage where I have like close to 10 employees, and almost all of them have actually been people who came in the program, have gotten results, changed their lives, and now they just want to give back and help out. So I have like an awesome team of people that I really enjoy working with, leading, and we have some big goals for the company. I have my ecom store. I'll hopefully be starting my own brand. So just doing all this stuff, staying healthy, and then yeah, that's probably the stuff I enjoy the most.
Yeah, 100%. How do you toe the line between your health and your business? Because for myself, like I have a full-time coach as a result, because I knew that I'd fucking take the piss otherwise. I'm still doing very long days, like 15, 16 hour days, but I have a coach who literally like is with me every day as a result.
Yeah, I think I definitely was in a lot better shape health wise before business because for me it was always I'd say my health in law school were somewhat equivalent to me, and then when I started business, business always took priority over everything else. So fitness kind of fell to the wayside. But I think when you're starting out in business, when you're the one doing everything, when you're working 12, 15 hours a day, it should probably fitness should not be your first priority, or you'll lose to someone who's going all in business. But I think once you get to a certain stage in business where you're not the one doing everything, having that clear head and having that health, it's more important about making better decisions, less decisions, but better decisions. So I think I'm at that stage now where I have capital to deploy in what I want to do. I don't need to be the one working 15 hours a day. So it's more important for me now to be healthy with a clear head to make better decisions where health is now what is actually going to prevent me what would prevent me from getting to the next level. Like if you're stressed on your phone all day, not sleeping well, you can't make good decisions. You can't lead a company
100%.
of like 20 plus people. So now I think I'm getting to the stage where it should be almost on par with business, because being healthy, having that clear head will then feed into the business and allow me to get to the next level. Because as you advance, it gets more and more stressful. You have more and more responsibility. You have more people to pay. You have more on your shoulders. And if you're stressed out working 15 hours a day, not sleeping, not eating healthy on your phone, it's not going to be a good recipe.
Yeah, because you've got yourself out of the tasks and you're actually just more in strategy stuff,
Exactly.
which is obviously like the end goal, you know.
Pulling the right levers, putting the right people in the right places, making sure you're going the right direction, and you're not actually the one doing it. But to make
Yeah.
those right decisions, to pull the right levers, you have to be in a good headspace, and you have to be healthy.
What's your routine like now in Dubai?
So I get up around 6 or 7. Usually put like a good shift in at the beginning, like 4 or 5 hours. That's my deep work session. And then I usually around 10 or 11 go down. There's like a nice pool here where like I can sit in the sun, check emails, things like that. Usually film some content around the middle of the day, go for a walk. It's too hot in Dubai to go for a walk now. So that's usually when I go to the gym. And then the afternoon from like 1 till 6 is admin, like
Mhm.
calls, students, emails, just like kind of administrative type tasks. And then just have dinner and do a little bit more work before bed, but that's pretty much it. Deep work is definitely in the morning.
Do you think you're gonna try to step out of the coaching business at some point, like kind of automate that side, just so you've done for ecom?
I have largely, like, I'm still on some calls, and I think I'll always be on some calls, but yeah, like a lot of the actual coaching and stuff is done by customer success managers. So these are people who have came in the program, had success, and now they're my essential coaches. So there's like 5 of those guys now that when people come into the program, they get assigned one of them that they can meet with as much as they
Mhm.
want. So that is kind of off my plate, but I still have group calls. I still do like niche selection calls with people. We have an upper tier program where like if people succeed in the first one, then they can go into this other one which is a longer time frame with an aim of getting them even better results. I work with
Yeah.
those people one on one, so I still have about 5 to 10 hours of calls per week. I'm not sure if I'll ever outsource that. I enjoy it, and I
Hmm.
think it's important for me to stay in the game fresh, because like my store is quite advanced now. It's been around for almost 2 years. I think like to properly give beginners advice, like I need to be on the phone with them, seeing where they're at. I can't just like completely step back and still have
100%, man.
information. Yeah,
Then you're gonna end up like the mentor who never ran the business.
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
You've learned the hard lessons though along that way, you know, which has helped your coaching business and your e-com store at the same time. If you didn't have them, man, you wouldn't be the
yeah.
same mindset you have right
All,
now, you know.
all the hard lessons that I learned from the e-com store, like again, there was the mentor, there was the agency, there was other situations. Like I'll tell one story quick if we've got time. But
Yeah.
essentially, I partnered with this brand, and they said the margins on this product were 60%. So it was a cheaper product. It was $700. It costed me 300, something like that, 320, 330. I don't remember exactly, but I had to pay shipping. So I assumed it would be like $150 shipping, and that my margin would be like 30%, something like this after all was said and done. So this product was out of stock when I brought the supplier on, but they said you can list it on your website. People will still order, and then as soon as it's in stock, we'll let you know and you can ship it to them. So I took, I kept getting all of these orders for this product. I had like 29 orders in like a month for this product, and I was wondering like why, like all my competitors have the same product. Why is everyone ordering it from me? Then one day I got a bill, and it was 11, the shipping ended up being $700. So I had listed at 700.
Hmm.
It ended up costing like $1,100 after shipping. So I lost $400 on each one on like 29 of them. So I don't know the math. It was over $15,000, I think, that I lost. And this supplier never told me. They just said you have 60% margin. They didn't say anything about the shipping. I had no warning. As soon as the products came in, they just shipped them. They didn't even ask me like, do you realize that you're losing $400 on each of these orders? So that was another
Oh
like
my.
$15,000 mistake. But all this stuff is because I didn't have a program like this. So now like I can tell my students, you need to check this before you take the order. But again, it's all these painful mistakes that put me in the position to then give people advice now.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's why I love what you do, man. You're going to be on to many more things in the future. So I want to say a massive thank you. On to our next session in person, as always.
Yes.
When you come out to Bali soon, or come out to Dubai when it's not so hot. And yeah, well, we'll do another session, deeper on your coaching side of things, and see how things are moving at that point.
Sounds great, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Let me stop the recording for now. But